Hello, my name is Crystal Petrie, and you are watching another episode of the Crystal Petrie podcast. My guest today, Scottie Nell Hughes. How are you, Scottie?
I am doing fabulous. I am excited that it's finally getting to be Thanksgiving week, and now it's all the awkward, uncomfortable moments that people do at the Thanksgiving table. I can't wait to see all those videos go across the internet sphere.
Oh, this is about to be a good week, a good holiday week. So you are a national political commentator, and we are going to talk about. So we now have our president. We have our president-elect Donald Trump on his second term, and the big news right now is him filling his cabinets.
Yeah.
So today, or I guess maybe yesterday, his attorney, Matt Gaetz, the attorney general, his nominee for attorney general, Matt Gaetz, stepped aside amidst allegations of sexual misconduct. Want to make sure I get that correct. And so President-elect Donald Trump has now nominated Pam Bondi from Florida. What are your thoughts on his new nominee for attorney general?
Well, Pam is an absolutely lovely and intelligent woman who was very, very active in the 2016 campaign, less active in 2020, less active in 2024. And I think that speaks to her credibility. As so many things we have found with the Trump campaign over the years has been people that are there for themselves, have their own agendas, who want to get their own clickbait, get their own stories to focus on them rather than Donald Trump and his agenda. And Pam, she did the initial fight with us in 2016 to get Donald Trump elected. But recently, she's really been more behind the scenes. She's still been somewhat a part advising the campaign, but still paying attention to her work. And I think this is a very solid, a very good pick. I think you're going to have especially after Matt Gaetz, I think you're going to have very little pushback on her confirmation, which is almost what you really need right now. There's no doubt that you look at Donald Trump's cabinet versus the current cabinet, and there's definitely some fire. There's definitely controversial figures in this current cabinet that were able to get confirmed, and a president deserves his cabinet, people he can trust, but you also need to have competent people that they don't become the story. So Pam Bondi is going to be one of those. I think she'll be an easy confirmation. I hope she is, and I think she's going to do a really good job. But what people are forgetting about Attorney General, 2016, Donald Trump had Jeff Sessions.
Correct.
You could not have picked a more loyal, but a more legally competent, qualified, straight. Not only did he believe in the conservative movement, but the Trump agenda, and they took him out within weeks of Trump's administration. So it really goes to show real quickly, she is going to potentially, and he was the first administrative officer, I feel like that. Well, Michael Flynn was a big one, but then he was one of the next ones that was in line that they took out. So she's going to have to probably be prepared to take some hard fire real quick, depending on how ambitious Donald Trump is. And it sounds like he's going to be with what he wants to get done.
Correct. What about the fact that President-elect Donald Trump has not selected his Treasury Secretary yet? What are your thoughts on that? And who do you think would make a great selection for that?
Well, I'm in the state of Tennessee, so I'll be quick to tell you, I have a very strong friendship and very much like Senator Bill Hagerty. He is someone that is diplomatic like no other. I've never seen, he can definitely defuse a situation. He is someone that definitely comes from the economic, he did amazing for economic community development when he was ECD director here for our governor 10 years ago. He's done great in the Senate. He's one of those that doesn't throw firebombs. He's not about making the headlines. He's about getting stuff done. So I am a Senator Bill Hagerty fan who was with Elon Musk and Donald Trump this week at the SpaceX.
Yes.
The fact that we have not gotten an announcement, though, and I will tell you, Bill Hagerty was it from the very beginning, even before Donald Trump had even been elected. They always said he was going to be in that position. The fact he hasn't makes me think that there's obviously some questions, and there's some, obviously there's other names that are involved with it. I think the one hesitation why we haven't seen announcements because cryptocurrency has become a huge issue. I mean, when you have people like Elon Musk, that is obviously very much involved in it, they want to see a very a very bullish crypto person put into this position and want to see it potentially be integrated into the American economy. Bill Haggerty is a traditionalist. He's probably had to learn about, like most people have,
We
what
all have.
crypto is exactly and what it is. And I'm still trying to piece it together. So I think that is probably why we have not seen an announcement as much, is because they're trying to find someone that balances out the past traditionalists to get us on the right track, but still really, really excited and open to this new line of finance and marketing and funds, which belongs in the crypto world.
Yes. And it could be because Donald Trump loves drama. It could be he's kind of stringing it along for a little bit. I do know that cryptocurrency went up on the stock market. So maybe some things are happening that they just haven't revealed yet. And of course, with Elon Musk, even though Bill Haggerty is a traditionalist, Elon Musk would be more than happy to educate.
Right. And
More
that's
than
the side of it. Good for business. And that's what Elon has to understand,
yes.
and, to a certain extent underneath Bill here, when he was here, Meta came to Tennessee. So, I mean, you never know I've learned in this world, everybody has different reasons, different agendas to it. I think I agree with you on the drama, but I think Trump's picks have enough drama with it. I mean, if you don't think that it's not going to be, I mean, Matt Gaetz was going to be entertaining, but there's some other cabinet nominees that I'm going, okay, get your popcorn ready, folks, because this is going to be more entertaining than Bravo.
This is going to be good.
It's going to be juicy and it's going to be dirty, and we're not going to like this.
Yes.
But we're going to see if the same sort of grace was given to Donald Trump's nominees that was given to Biden 4 years ago.
Yes, hopefully. Okay, so President Trump is our now president, or President-elect Trump is our now president. What do you think were the key strategies that helped propel his victory over Kamala Harris?
Well, I don't know who's our president right now. I don't even think our president knows who he is right now. I mean, Trump,
No.
I think the whole country, probably the whole world at this stage, would like to have, Donald Trump sworn in tomorrow. Now, it was just announced, in fact, it just came over that Ron Paul has joined Vivek Ramaswamy and Elon Musk in this new Doge efficiency. And I think that is hilarious. I think that is right there going to become the department of, oh my gosh. So if you are a government employee currently right now, and I think this is why, to your question, why Donald Trump was elected, the people who have, if you have ever had to file an IRS tax return and had to file a amended tax return, if you've ever been audited, if you've ever had to file, if you have an older person, you've had to work with Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, you hate the federal government. It is not a good process. It does not make sense. My father, who applied for Medicare 18 months ago, was just granted 2 weeks ago, 18 months from my mother's death. And it has been a process we cannot get through for anything. That right there is why Americans, it's not about what the candidate said, it's what their real life experiences were when they went into that election booth, whether you're talking about how much they were paying at the gas pump, how much at the grocery store, but also their personal experiences the last 4 years in dealing with the federal government. It has not been good. And so making agencies like Doge that's going to come in and cut that bureaucracy. And if you are a government worker, God bless you. If you've still been going into the office only ever like 1 hour a week, and you're still doing 90% of your government work in your pajama pants, you're probably going to be on the chopping block, because you're going to have to justify your paycheck that is funded by the American taxpayer dollars. And I'm telling you, the last court I would want to walk in front of is one that had Judge Vivek, Judge Elon, and now you got Judge Ron Paul sitting at the front deciding my fate.
Wow. And that really, I'm thinking about my next question here with voter fatigue. People are just tired of voting. They're tired of the campaigning. Even before this, Kamala Harris jumped in at the last minute. Like, people are just exhausted with it. But I think it's exactly what you said, Scottie, that people are tired of their lived experiences these last 4 years. And maybe that trumps, pun intended, the voter fatigue.
What was interesting, they talk about all these folks that for the first time looked at the Republican Party and voted Republican.
Yes.
What's interesting when I look at them and go, okay, first of all, this isn't what the Republican Party has been. And that's a good thing. The Republican Party back in 2008, we birthed the Tea Party because people were so frustrated, not with necessarily the Democrats, but the Republican Party. That's where we were angry at, because our own party was doing the taxing. Our own party was doing the spending. And so, I'll be the first to say I've been a lifelong Republican. I was raised in a very Republican house. But even my own parents would look at where the party of Mitt Romney and uh, even John McCain, what that Lindsey Graham, what that party had become was not what they identified with. They didn't identify with the Democrats either, but they did not like who those three. So when they went to the voting booth, they were picking the least of the worst, and people do not like to make it. So when those Democrats crossed over, and you're right, they did have voting fatigue, but when they talk about all the different demographics that went for Trump for the first time, it's because the party was not the Republican Party they were voting for. Because you look at it, you have Tulsi Gabbard, former Democrat. You have Elon Musk, African American. You have Donald Trump, former Democrat. You have, go down your list of folks that are a part of him, that are his inner circle that he had out on those stands, and they were not Republicans. In fact, when he did put people like Mike Pompeo along Republican, Lindsey Graham, he got booed. He got booed at his own rallies when
Yes.
he mentioned those names. Even Marco Rubio, to a certain extent, in Florida. I was at the rally at his own resort there in Miami. And when Marco Rubio was mentioned, he was not beloved in his own state because people
No,
saw him for selling out his own party
I
with the
remember
Gang of
that.
Eight immigration party. So the Republican Party today, they didn't cross over and vote Republican. No, they voted for what Trump has created and what this sort of new platform has been. Now, we're still going to get the pushback from the Republican elite, the establishment that is still within the party, but there's so much of a minority now
Mm-hmm.
that I think that this time there will actually be change. And I think that's why Trump's having to come in here like a wrecking ball with his nominees, because he knows he's going to get one chance, and he better have the people lined next to him that don't care about getting elected to office ever again, but are going to go in and destroy what the Republican Party and the Democratic Party together had built up over the last 50 years.
Yes, let's talk about some of the people that switched over and voted Republican for the first time. So, according to the numbers, 23% of African American men voted for Donald Trump. 55% of the Latino community, men and women, voted for Donald Trump. But the statistic that really got me, Scottie, was the fact that Donald Trump secured more middle class, lower class votes than the Democratic Party. And I was completely blown away with that. And Kamala Harris actually secured more of the elite, upper class vote. And my question is, are we watching a change of guards right now?
A change of guard, or rebellion, a reorganization. I think it's more a rebellion is when I think about it. You
Mhm.
know, I love when they break out the demographics, because I believe we do have to look at it. And I've taken a lot of heat for this these past since the election. Crystal, you're a strong woman. I'm a strong woman. And the mistake the Democrats made, I do believe our country is ready for our first female president. I do believe that we are not such a sexist nation. That now we still have lots of glass ceilings to break, barriers to break, and there's still definitely not full equality for men and women. I'm just going to talk from that issue first,
Mhm.
but I do believe that we are ready. They have to give us the right candidate, though. Any woman will tell you we are harder on women than we are men.
Yes.
We will cut to the throat. We read better. We look at the bigger picture. Men just look at the bigger picture. We look at the details. We can see if someone's authentic, if someone's got their own hidden agenda that they're not telling us, because we have experience in it. We've had to live life as a woman. That's just what we're
Yes.
used to. So we are ready to elect a female president. It has to be the right one. I'm going to go back and say it wasn't from a Kamala, and it's weird when I talk about Hillary Clinton and Kamala Harris.
Mhm.
It wasn't the men that won this for Donald Trump. It was the
The
women.
women.
Because
Yes.
if it was a good candidate, if it was the right candidate, which I believe Tulsi might be one day, potentially, as she continues to as we learn more and more about her. But if it's the right woman, we're going to get behind her, and we are going to boost that woman up, and we're going to make sure she wins. And it doesn't matter whether you're Republican, Democrat, black, white, homo, hetero, whatever. If it is a good, solid, honest, genuine candidate, we will get that person in office. Kamala Harris wasn't. And
Mhm.
that's what the women saw. So even and when you're telling us that we as women can only care about one issue, which it's reproductive rights is a very important issue, but it's not the only issue that's important to women. that there's just as much, if not more than men, because we care about the micro. Men
Yeah.
care about the macro. We care about the details. And there's a lot of details in our daily lives right now that made women realize we had to go back to what we at least started in 2016. The different why, and if that kind of gets your idea of it, and you can apply that to all the demographics. I think to a certain extent, people are able right now, when you don't trust the media, I call it, there was a sweet spot there for the media for about 20 years there, 19, I don't even say 30, 80 to 2010, where all we had was the TV. And when they
Yes.
told us it, we believed it to be the truth, the biblical truth. Now we have the internet, we have social media, we have podcasts. We can judge ourselves what the truth is by the people that we learn to trust and the people
Mhm.
where we get our information from. And so, therefore, we don't have to take what they feed us. And that's where you're seeing their meltdowns. They realize they don't have the power anymore, that they don't even, and they're not going to get it back, no matter what they try to do. So that's where I think you're seeing these different demographics are not even waking up. They are actually realizing it's important for them to pay attention to other and not just watch the 5 o'clock news and take for what they say is the truth.
Do you think that legacy media is over?
No, I think
You
they'll
do
always,
not.
I do
Why
not.
not?
There'll always be something.
Okay.
There'll always have to be a solid place. What I think you're going to see is legacy media, if they want to survive their specific channel, the more that media gets back to the facts, and I say facts, the who, what, where, when of a story, and leave out the why and the
Mhm.
explanation of it, we're going to have to get that information from somewhere. Because we do have this plethora on the internet. And even I have to go, okay, is this AI? Is this true or not? If you can be a news source that can build the trust back that everything you're saying is accurate and true, without opinion, without motive, you will be able to survive. And I think legacy media realize that they're going to have to. We're always going to have news channels on our
Mhm.
TV. We're always going to have, but they're going to have to get out of the business of opinions, and they're going to have to get out of the. And if you want opinions, then fine, do a network of opinions and identify them as opinions.
Opinions.
But what
Yes.
we're seeing is ABC, CBS, NBC, all these major news networks have identified their opinion as being an actual news fact, and people are just tired. They can see through it now. They don't have to just rely on them.
What do you think Kamala Harris did wrong that cost her the race? Was it the fact that she solely focused on the abortion women's right issue? Or was it the fact that maybe she came in, she only had 3 months to campaign? But she did raise over $1 billion during that 3 month time. What do you think she did wrong?
I think even getting in now, granted, the latest polls show her to be the front runner for 2028 for the Democratic Party. I
Okay.
think that will change. I think you're going to see people like Alexandria AOC going to potentially try to go after it. Obviously, we've got Gavin Newsom. I think you're going to have others try to start to go in for 2028. But I think
Mhm.
this is a party that for the last 4 years threw Kamala in the back room. They did never brought her out. This was never their plan. In fact, I didn't think in 2020 when Joe Biden was first elected, he was so mentally already gone at that stage
Mhm.
from everything I had observed. I didn't think he was going to last a year. I thought he was going to have to, for health reasons, resign. But what I was told and what I truly can see and believe with my own eyes is they didn't like Kamala. They were worried about Kamala
Really?
Harris being a leader. And so the
Wow.
Democratic had dismissed her for all these. I mean, she got out of the race of the primary, one of the first ones out prior to that. And even
I
in this,
remember that.
she never passed a bill. So she never had the respect of the party until they didn't have any other choice. And you can sit there and spin it all you want. I think it's the emperor has no new clothes. Spin it all you want, but the party for so long had just dismissed her that you cannot repair that in 3 months. And ultimately, she wasn't a likable person. When your own staff, the first year of her being vice president, 92% of them had resigned. That's very telling to me, especially as a woman. We have a hard job as a female in politics
Yes.
to sell, but we better, number one, be likable. Number two, be
Mhm.
intelligent. But number one, we better be likable. And she just was not liked by her own staff. And I think that is extremely telling of the character, of the soul of a person.
Do you think that her opportunity to be elected president is over because she has lost twice now? The last time she didn't even make it through the primaries. This time we did not have a primary, but she was the nominee and lost again. Is her opportunity over?
I think she's done, and I think and that's probably would be smart on the Democrats' part to just start fresh, start anew, come 2028 or 2026, do the midterms, seeing how things are. They need to do just like the Republicans, after dealing with John McCain and Mitt Romney, had to do a complete palate cleanse, and that's how we got Trump in 2016. This is that Democrats' palate cleanse. They have to do it. They lost so much on so many levels. They're going to have to figure out how they can still continue to fight the Republicans at the same time. That's when I listen to The View and all these other women that are just, I get it, you're bitter, you're angry, but you got to listen to the people as to why they flipped over and why they switched and why you lost them, and why did the Democratic Party stop being the party for the American worker and for the middle America, the middleman. I think those are questions that the Democrat Party is going to have to answer. And if they get a candidate, and it's a Bernie Sanders, but Bernie Sanders isn't authentic, not when you have 3 homes and 1 in Cape Cod. Like, if you get an authentic pro-American worker, it doesn't matter what party that they are by, they'll be the ones that win in 2028.
Mm-hmm. You know what? I hadn't thought about it, but AOC would be a viable candidate.
So,
Could
yes,
you
she would.
imagine?
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
Because
I had
everybody knows
not
her
even
dirt.
thought
We
about
all know
that.
the skeletons in her closet, and she's still very, very popular.
Very popular.
But she's got
Yes.
the charisma, she's got the attitude. I just, like I said, that would be one that people, whether you like her policies, and the person, I think that's the one the Republicans got to be thinking about how this is going to go.
Yes. Okay. So, how was it that President-elect Donald Trump was able to sidestep any criticisms from his first term?
And the criticisms, I still say that the reason why he lost in 2020 was
Mhm.
because of how he handled COVID. The year before, when they announced Joe Biden was going to be the nominee running against him, I was like, this is
Mhm.
going to be a breeze. Don't have to worry about it. Nobody's going to be Trump versus Biden. But then
Right.
COVID hit,
Mhm.
and Trump faltered, and he fell into a trap of more government instead of less personal responsibility. From
Okay.
conservative standpoint, we like less government, more responsibility.
Yes.
Kind of like a teenager. Whether we need it or not, whether we deserve it or not, whether it's going to end up well for us, doesn't matter. That's
Yes.
how you get conservatives involved. And when Trump came in with COVID, he came in with a government overreach like no
Mhm.
other. And that's why Republicans left him in the dirt. People advised him and they used the emotion of dying and losing family, which is so important to him, as the reason for it. The American people didn't buy it. We stayed home in 2020. So COVID was such a big deal that nobody addressed it on the campaign trail. Nobody said that's why you lost, because, like I said, it's a very hard situation to handle. Prior to that, the things that he did spend a lot of money. He did run up our federal budget, but people could justify it. They could see it at work for them. They could see their bridges being being reconstructed. They could see it happening. And I think another issue is the foreign wars, our foreign policy. I think mothers like you and I are very, very scared right now. And your children are a little bit young with me, are younger than mine, but mine are 17, 18. My son has to register for a draft, and there's a rule on the books, there's a law on the books potentially that will have my daughter potentially able to be drafted, and potentially your daughters by the time they reach 18. And I will come hellfire, hell water before politicians play G.I. Jane with my kids. So I think you look at the foreign policy aspects, you
Mhm.
look at everything else going on, and you will have that's the reason why Donald Trump's a lot of the things that happened in his first campaign are not being able to be discussed because of where we currently stand on those same issues.
And as you were talking, Scotty, I was thinking, and the American people had that break, that
Mhm.
4 year break from his first presidency. Then we had the break with Joe Biden, and then now. So people, even though COVID is still very much relevant now, people are just not thinking about it like they did in 2020. They are just not. So I
Absolutely.
feel like the break benefited him really.
Mhm. Oh, 100%, because
Yeah.
it gave him that idea of, I don't want to, he knows he can't continue. It's easy to rebel against his own policy. That was the problem Kamala Harris had as well. You want to ask her biggest problem is she had to try to not only still pay allegiance, because if she looked like she hated the last 4 years of policy that she was under, that if she totally turned her back on him, they would see her as being disloyal. Nobody wants that.
Right.
But she also couldn't say how she was any different. So she had a hard line to walk of trying to separate herself from the same policies that caused a complete rebellion against the policies of Joe Biden, which has got Trump elected.
What do you think was the singular issue, if you can point to one, and this is a two-part question. What was the singular issue, if you can point to one, that cost Kamala Harris the election? And what was the singular issue or point that gave Donald Trump the election?
Likability, engagement. It really can engage. Trump could engage.
Hmm.
Kamala Harris, and it was authentic engagement. It wasn't the bussing in or the paying for or all of it. It was the authentic engagement. Kamala Harris, towards the end, sort of started to get it, but when you're having to pay celebrities to come to your event, and I get it, costs are involved. When you're having to pay certain people, it turns into a concert. Donald Trump's rallies were the longest days ever. If you went to one, they were just, you started at 8 a.m. and you had to go through security, and then you sat out there, and the food, they gave away water, but it was expensive. Like, they were not one, you were there because you liked Donald Trump. You weren't there to see anybody else but Donald J. Trump, maybe Barron Trump a little bit. I think my daughter went for one of them. But other than that, you were not there for any other reason for it. Donald Trump. And that's what he was so good at. If you went to a Kamala Harris rally, by golly, you got Cardi B, you got to see Beyonce, you got to see all these other great celebrity names. Nobody went to a Donald Trump rally to see Hulk Hogan or even Elon. That it wasn't. It was really more about the man. She made it more about everybody else than herself, and she really needed. But she couldn't make it about herself because, like I said, she was walking a fine line there.
Right, right. What do you think are President Trump's top priorities for his second term?
Well, he is so ambitious. Good gracious. Now, what I do love, and this is how I know that Donald Trump's going to be different,
Okay.
is the first day out, his first announcement of policy was his 250th birthday, because who doesn't like a birthday party, number one? And that, if you truly love America, regardless if you have an R by your name or a D by your name, you can celebrate 250 years of its existence and get excited about everything and put your input into it. How else can a nation so divided become unified?
A
It's through
party.
something like this. And
Yeah.
so I think this was a great move that's going to span all of the country, going to the Iowa State Fair, doing the parades, doing the new statues of the 50 greatest Americans that he wants to build in Statue Park. All of those things people can get excited about if they truly love America, regardless of how they feel about Donald Trump. If they can put America above their personal politics, and they can see where this is a good thing. But after that, he came in and announced some of the most ambitious projects I've ever seen. Taking away the Department of Education sounds great. Good luck. You cannot talk about a more entrenched federal program than
The Department
than
of Education.
Department of Education. And so going in, you're going to take, I get it, you're taking Linda McMahon. She's just taking down big wrestlers. But even that, it's going to take more than just one little 5'6" woman to do. And that's very ambitious. Talking about the immigration, the first time, and it's going to happen, that there is video out of a family being separated by ICE, and half of them are being deported, and it will be heartbreaking. The first time that hits the airwaves, it is going to be a firestorm of
Yes.
negativity for every person who has their name tied to the Trump administration. It's going to happen. And I'm praying that the PR people involved
Are
will
ready.
be able to be ready for it and how to answer back for it and try to prevent it in the first place. Say this is, but it's going to take, so he is already being more ambitious. Promises given, promises kept. And that is where you're looking at. So between deportation program here at home, obviously education, the education department, and everything else in between, very ambitious. And if he can accomplish all of that, he's done more than the last 5 presidents combined here in America. Foreign policy, which is more what, another part of my specialty. If he can bring peace back to the Middle East, if he can bring everybody to the table, if he can stop. I am so tired of hearing this threat of a nuclear war happening, whether you're talking about Iran, Russia, Ukraine.
Yes.
I'm tired of it because it takes one little nuke going off in 2024, 2025, and every single person's life on this planet changes
It's
forever.
true. It's
And
true.
I don't think people, I do not think our politicians realize how much the American people, I got laughed at. Early voting had started, and I made a comment on one of the news networks about how when I went in, I was thinking about war and my children potentially being deployed and a nuclear missile being aimed at a town being released. And that's one of the reasons why I voted for Trump. And she's like, that's not true. Nobody thinks that. Yes, they do. They cannot look at what's going on right now in Israel. They cannot look at what's going on right now in Russia, Ukraine, and not think that if we continue to provoke it, somebody is going to do something stupid and all of our lives will be changed together. If you thought COVID and the pandemic was bad,
Wow.
wait till you see a nuclear warhead being released into the atmosphere, and it will be a whole different game.
Okay, so what do you think
That's
about
happy thoughts, isn't it?
healthcare? Happy thoughts,
Happy.
and so easy to pivot from. What do you think about healthcare? His healthcare reform policy. He recently nominated Dr. Mehmet Oz over Medicare and Medicaid. What are your thoughts on that cabinet pick, and how does he plan to help with healthcare reform?
He obviously has some idea. We know he likes celebrities, but he
Yes,
obviously has some idea. Dr. Oz did run and
he did.
was not victorious. So obviously he's got some policy points that he's thought through. This is personal. And if you've never had that experience in dealing with Medicare, Medicaid, and our Social Security for our elderly, those that are 65 and years and above, then you kind of just fluff it off. And I used to fluff it off like, let somebody else. It's serious. And this age group is hurting, and they're hurting in an age of technology they don't understand. And everything's been put into technology. You can't just pick up a phone or fill out a card or go to an office anymore. You have to go online. You have to have passwords. They've made this almost impossible for those who have paid into the system for all these years to be able to actually right now be able to relax and breathe. Majority, I always find it sad when I walk into like a Walmart and I see someone who's in their 80s. Now, if they're there because they want to be there and they like the greeting and the activity, wonderful. But the ones that are there because they have to be there to put food on their table. And in
Yes.
that way, we have failed as a country, as a society. And their generation failed, but now it's on my generation that if we don't figure out a way to fix it. So Donald Trump, when it comes to Medicare and Medicaid, is going to have to do some strong reforms of it. And I think a big part of it is when we are paying for all of the illegal, for our foreign policy and all of these countries and all the foreign aid we're giving that's giving zero benefit to the United States. And then we talk about those that we're paying here in the United States that do not pay into the system, that do not pay taxes. I think you eliminate those two things. I guarantee our people and American citizens will be treated, their daily life will improve immensely. If you cut off all of the billions we're spending, trillions we're spending in foreign aid, cut off all the money that we're spending on illegals, that also cuts off all the crime that we're having, the money we're spending on the crime, everything else. I think we can actually take care of our elderly. I think we can actually build the schools in the inner cities to be at par with those that are in the suburbs. But you got to have the money to do it. And right now we're spending the money in the wrong places.
And I know that is two things that Donald Trump said he was going to immediately do is stop the funding of the Ukraine, stop giving them money. And also within NATO, make sure everyone is starting to pay their fair share and not the bulk of it be on the USA.
Absolutely. And it goes back to, like I said, foreign policy. Those that are studies of history, and they're much better than I am. But I'm a firm believer. NATO is not even supposed to be in existence today.
Mhm.
NATO was something post World War II that was meant to get everybody back together and down, but then go away. It was not meant to be another level of bureaucracy, but global bureaucracy. That's why you have the UN. That's why you have, there's other ways. It was not supposed to form this alliance, but okay, so it's still in existence. Great. The problem with NATO has been it goes against one of our other doctrines called the Monroe Doctrine, that is like you mind your own business and take care of your own borders first before you go worry about somebody else. Both of those have been basically, NATO's been beefed up, Monroe Doctrine's been taken out. That's not good. And I think that is one thing that Donald Trump is going to try to reorganize, but it really just depends on the people that he's putting around. A little hesitant with Marco Rubio, and is people have called him a neocon in the past, but obviously Trump trust him. So obviously, and there's not a single thing that any member of his cabinet or any of their departments going to do that Trump this time is not going to be made aware of
I
and
agree
be
with
on
that.
top of.
I
100%.
absolutely, yeah, I absolutely agree with that. Okay, Scotty, I have a couple more questions for you, then I will let you go. What do you think President Trump is going to do to help with social and race relations? Even, I mean, we have our Republican president, but our country is still very much divided, even though, according to the numbers, a large Hispanic majority voted for him. 23% of African American men voted for him, but our country is still very much racially and socially divided. What do you think he will do to try and fix that?
I think that's one of the reasons why the Democrats lost.
Hmm.
They speak a really good game. I mean, they definitely do better than the Republicans do. But at some point, people need action. People need results. It's one thing to say the problem. It's one thing to say, well, here's my solution, but you better implement it. And I do believe that once again, whether you're, and I don't think this is naive, but whether you're white, black, Hispanic, Asian, Indian, if you are here, you want one thing. You want your community to be good so that your family will be good. You want what is best for your family. And that hopefully you're a good enough person that continues like a little ripple out to your
Right.
community, to your state. And so I think that is one thing that bonds us together. So there is nothing that puts more pressure on a family than the economics and the cost of daily living. And when you give people the ability and the security to be able to provide a solid income, people don't, it might be nice to live in, multi-million dollar houses and have multi-million dollar cars, but I don't think that's what the majority, that's not the American dream. The American dream is being able to be responsible, but be able to earn a nice life for you and your family, to maybe take a trip, to be able to go to the beach every year. It might not be a beach in Bali, but I'll take Panama City. I'll take, along the coast, I'll take a van trip.
Hmm.
But people want to have it. I think if Trump continues to provide and show economic stability, not only in the suburbs, but in the urban areas as well, and give those families the ability and as many tools as they can to prosper and have the life that they dream of and they desire, it doesn't matter what your demographic is. You will look to the man who's doing it. And I think that's the difference between the Democrats spoke like they would, and it's not just about giving money. That's not what we want. I mean, we understand, we saw with COVID, you could send me a check every 3 months, but those checks are going to end for
Yes.
$1,500. I want you to show me how I can earn those checks myself and how I can bring that money and continue to earn more depending on my work. We want equal pay for equal work. That's the difference. And so I think if Trump can do that, if he can bring economic stability, economic hope, authentic economic hope back into our communities, you will see everybody rise together. I do believe that is, call me naive, but I do think I think that's actually an option that he can accomplish.
My final question for you, Scotty. What do you think? And I know his second term hasn't even started. It starts January the 20th, 2025. What do you think President Trump's legacy will be for his second term?
Oh, that could be anything. I think it depends on how he makes it. I know what he wants his legacy to be.
Mhm.
He wants his legacy to be a thriving and striving and surviving America for all, to take the same what we saw the 1950s be, but make sure that the quality of life that a lot of families, the majority of families experienced in America in the 1950s, 1960s, make sure it's covered for everybody, has that option and that ability. I think he really does have an optimistic view. He loves beautiful things. He loves a beautiful life. And he would like, I think, everybody who works hard and has good souls and have good intentions and want to be a part of America, he wants them to be able to have that beautiful life. And I think that's what his legacy will be, restoring the American dream for everyone.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Scottie, for being on my podcast. I appreciate you so much.
We'll be friends from now on.
We'll be friends forever. Yes. Yes.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And to my audience, thank you so much for tuning in and watching. You can get Scottie's podcast and all of my other podcasts on YouTube Podcasts and Apple Podcasts. And always know you always have time to listen and learn on the go.